and I've got with me a guest that we started and met last time, Chris Vallone. Yeah, he's here with us. Vallone Works Productions. Yes, sir. So last week we met him over at Curious Refuge event that he was doing with a bunch of AI people in the library up in tell us more about that, Chris.
Yeah, so I started the meetup almost a year ago, and just watching Curious Refuge, I subscribe to their channel. So when Caleb came on and said, "Hey, if you want to start a meetup somewhere, just pop us an email and say where you are, what location, and we'll help you out." So they help you out. They promote you on their channel. They post it on Eventbrite. And then we started doing some meetups. So in the beginning, it was just at a little restaurant, Mama Bella's down in West Palm. And I picked it because it was a cute little place and it was cozy and the people were just starting to get the restaurant going. So I like to help small places out. And they had a beautiful TV right behind the bar. So I figured if we did want to show some shorts, they allowed me to use their TV.
So you had like 15, 20 people and it's taking place now in West Palm at the library?
Yeah, so it was a little noisy at the restaurant, so everyone was like, we can't keep shouting over each other. What can we do?
Right.
And then I kept thinking to myself, it's got to be a location where they have a good screen and a good, media room. And sure enough, checked up on the libraries and they offer it for nothing, So
wow.
I just schedule it with them. You go right on their website, the Palm Beach Gardens branch library, and you just book a room and that's it. Pick your dates, and that's it.
So what day of the week and when is it that they can catch you next time?
So the next one's going to be October 1st. It's Wednesday, October 1st. I try to do them on Wednesdays or Thursdays, mostly Thursdays, but man, that library's booked a lot. So
yeah, I bet.
I try to keep it every month. We try to do this, So I think 2 months ago, we had about almost 30 people there. So it was a good turnout.
What's crazy about all this in the film industry, of course, Curious Refuge is like the go-to. They just got bought up by a big company and they're going worldwide. These little meetup groups, though, that's where you figure out how to do this stuff, right? This is back to the day when hobbyists would do this thing like learn photography, and then you have a photography group, and I did all that kind of stuff. So how did you get to be interested in AI, and how long ago did your film kind of ideas come from?
Oh gosh, I mean, I grew up on Looney Tunes cartoons. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to get into animation and cartooning, so it started way back when I was in grade school.
Yeah.
And
you've
I don't know,
done it semi-professionally for a little bit, and you've made a couple of films already.
Yeah, so in the early 2000s, when I got right out of college, I was doing live action films. So I had my own stunt crew out of Connecticut, and we did action films, horror films. I actually did a full feature film for $2,500. It was called The Agent, and I had stunts in it and guerrilla filmmaking on mini DV tape, and I wound up selling that and went international. So it was an hour and 40-minute film.
When I met you, first of all, I found out about you through Curious Refuge because they're really promoting all over the world. If they have these meetup groups, sometimes I want to get Caleb to come out and speak to us because that's what's got to happen. So we need to get a couple hundred people to join in. So if you're curious about this, if you want to find some refuge with some people like-minded like Chris is. And the cool thing was you actually showed, there you go. You actually showed the film that you're making right now that's appearing where? Where can we see this thing?
So the one I'm working on right now is not done yet, but I do have one playing this Saturday at the Hollywood, Florida Film Festival. It's my first AI film, and venturing back into filmmaking after 18 years. So it was just on a whim, really. I have a script that I wrote 18 years ago called 7 to Hell. And I wanted to make the trailer for it. I figured, let me just dabble in AI and just test this out. I'm watching a lot of these videos. And then Curious comes around and says, hey, we're doing a horror contest in October. I'm like, maybe I'll try it. All I got to do is grab a piece of the trailer and make this 5-minute short. And that's what I did.
If you haven't seen some of these film festivals, these are legit freaking films. I mean, it's the short that you showed us. And then you said you made one before that, I guess, is this film, right? And then the one you showed us there, I was like, oh, crap.
That's 15. Yeah, that was my 15-minute one that I finished like back in April. I finished that. That took me 4 months to make.
And that's a one-man deal. So you're Steven Spielberg with this in your pocket.
Yep.
Well, it's probably on a desktop a little bit, though, huh? You're not prompting off your phone, are you?
Yeah, listen, it's in my blood, and these stories of mine that I'm resurrecting after 18, 20 years is pretty exhilarating.
That was the beauty. When I had you on there, we had a hard stop at was it 8 o'clock or something? Like I went out in
Yeah.
the rain, got in my car, turned on the car headlight, and then toggled my phone, and we went on after about 30 minutes. Thanks, Brandon, for taking the little dead
Yeah,
space.
it was like watching the post office. Nor sleet, nor rain, nor no Wi-Fi.
Nothing's
The
gonna
AITV
stop
show
us,
must go
baby.
through.
But what was really cool is what you said about the story, about the human thing. And
Yeah.
this show is about that, man. If nothing else, it's about that. And you said it, and I felt like I was hearing an echo because you said it the same way I say it. Like all this AI stuff. Yeah. Okay. So I got in my pocket basically $1 billion budget and every actor and everything I want. But not everybody's Steven Spielberg, right?
Right.
They don't have the lived experience, or the agency or the 10,000 hours that you all put into it. And then it's the blood, sweat, and tears. It's
Yeah.
So your genre, do you like horror films in general?
I actually don't. I never grew up as a horror fan. I just always knew growing up, making films, indie films, horror was a genre to help an indie filmmaker, because you
Right.
don't need name actors to get your horror film noticed. I mean, just look at Blair Witch. That you don't know any of those actors, but that movie made a ton. So you got to look at things as a business as well. As much as I'm an artist, I want to look at it as a business as well. And I figured horror was a good shoe-in. I got
to tell you, you said Blair Witch Project. I just got to tell you the story. My wife threw up after watching Blair Witch, and we found out she was pregnant.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then the woman's house we were at, our best friends forever, she had a pregnancy kit. We weren't trying to get pregnant or anything. So he's 30 years old now. So, it's okay. But so she goes upstairs and uses her pregnancy kit. And within 3 days, she got pregnant and our sons were born 3 days apart. We've been lifelong friends forever.
Wow.
Yeah, in Chicago. They moved to Chicago. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. So there's my Blair Witch segue. But
there you go.
But I want to get back to the human part. In fact, that's actually a good example, right? The idea that you go on vacation, you come back, you tell this horrible story, or that we have this moment. I had this moment with my family, now with everybody, right? That the Blair Witch Project led to this, it led to that. We tell the stories. I mean, the Bible is just a collection of a bunch of books that are basically what not to do, what to do, how to act nice, how to act bad. It's just an instruction manual for humanity. And it's a Bible, which means it's a library. Bibliotheca means library. So it's 1,000 books written by 1,000 people, right?
Yeah.
So imagine it's got everything from Pulp Fiction to The Right Stuff, within one kind of thing. So when you're making a movie, what are you actually talking about? They talk about directors making the same film over and over again. What is it what's your Hitchcock zeitgeist of who you are? If it's not horror films, why did you make a horror? Just because there was a contest, or was it?
Yeah, well, challenge? I wrote the script 18 years ago, the feature script. So, and I was in the middle of making the trailer to it. So I figured if I make a trailer and then have the script, I now have something pitchable. And when back then I couldn't film it because I didn't have the budget to film it.
Right.
So I figured let me just try this and see how it goes. But then when I heard about the contest, I'm like, like I said, I'll take a piece of the trailer and now make it into a 5-minute short.
Yeah, that's it. That's
it just, you know what it is? I mean, it's like these little RC cars I got behind me. It's like I'm feeling like a kid again. I'm going back to my roots.
What you also do, those Volkswagens behind you. Tell us about that, because this relates, right?
So it's funny because I went to school for art, got a bachelor's of art, fine arts, and still wanted to be a filmmaker, artist, all that kind of stuff. And when I was in art school, I just felt that an artist needs to drive a Beetle. I just felt like a Volkswagen Beetle is the art car.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I was filmmaking, I had all my film gear in my Beetle. I had a 71 Super Beetle convertible. That was my first Beetle, and I don't know anything about cars. I didn't go to school for it. But I just felt like it was the car. But as I was filming doing films for 10 years, the bug was a hobby in the background. I was getting into it with my pop, and because my pop was a mechanic in Brooklyn when he was younger, so it came to a point where, like, in my late 20s, I'm like, all right, I'm a starving artist. I got to start making some money. I'm living in New York. I can't keep bumming off my folks. And, so I turned to, but I couldn't work for anybody because I got entrepreneurs in my family. And I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to start an eBay business. And I turned to
Oh.
my dad and I said, look, let's buy and sell the Volkswagens on eBay, but we'll use my film background. I'll showcase the cars at music and titles, effect, when nobody was doing that in 20 years ago on eBay. And it was very difficult to even embed a video onto the eBay auction. It was very archaic. But I did that. And then, with that first year, man, we flipped like, I don't know, 12, 13 Beetles that first year. And we generated such a following that one of my cars actually sold to Billy Joel Armstrong from Green Day. And then that's when I took to my dad. I'm like, man, we got to get a shop, because people were now calling me saying, I don't want to bid anymore on eBay. Could you build me a Bug? I was born in 67. Make me a Beetle. Wow. And I said, holy, they'll put the money up. And so it just took off from there. And that's when my YouTube channel started. So I've been doing YouTube for 20 years on YouTube, with the Volkswagens. And that brings in a lot of work. It's a lot of marketing, but all combining my filmmaking background. So I've been filming still, even with the business, so.
Right. So I want to have you come back on the show, because I think that you're exactly what I want to get, right? It's this, you got that rich story, even you're weaving in, the Blair Witch Project and the Beatles. These are things that we want to, my whole zeitgeist is, we're going to be faced with a choice. If we've got no job we have to do, what job would you choose? I mean, it sounds like your Beatles is a passion that you would do that even if you weren't really getting paid for it. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's about the story. It's about your life, right? In fact, I did this big deep dive existential thing. Everything about human life is a story and a game. If you think about going through K through 12, right, you're just going for each little piece of paper along the way, and you pick up this little knowledge, and that lets you get to a job, and then you get to a job, and you're playing Pac-Man through all of life. Now, how rich you make that experience is by who you put in it, who you come in with your game, who you go on the journey with, your loves and your children and your this and your that. And, it's like, that's what makes us human. And I hope that at the end of it all of every human being has a life I've had. I've never worked a day in my life. I literally, every single job working for the Miami Herald as a photojournalist, hell yeah, I would do that for nothing. And I turned down $10 million a year that my dad had taking over his insurance company to go do this instead.
Right.
And it was good money, but like, if you follow what you're put on the earth to do, and you always give lovingly to everybody and make sure you take care of those around you, hell, you just got a beautiful life, and you sleep good at night, or you don't sleep because you're too excited about what's next. Right. Yeah. So let's land that plane. But I really want to invite you back anytime, because I love the idea, and I want to see your film. So I don't know if we're going to get to it tonight, or we can see some stuff. But so
I was going to say, my question for you, Chris, is if we can't make it down to the film festival this weekend, because some of us don't get to live in Florida, where is this? Is it available on streaming platforms anywhere, or is it going to be? Where can we find it?
All my films thus far, all my AI films are on my YouTube channel, Valone Works, and just they're all there. So my one that I showed you last week, the 15-minute one, I mean, she's over 360 something thousand views already. So she's kicking some butt, and it's pretty cool. I mean, for a brand new channel that I started, I mean, it's a different niche of mine than the Volkswagen stuff, So, AI is a hot thing right now. So if you got good, good films and a good product to show, people will see it.
Well, and it's sort of like the opportunity to go do it. So just last night, I published my 20 romance songs. I got 120 songs. All my life I've been doing. Oh, there you go. Fantastic. Thanks. So all my life I've been writing music, and now I'm getting it copyrighted. But you're now making movies because you can. I mean, you literally, what would it cost to make that film if you were to hire actors and do it?
Millions.
It's not even in the realm of imagination, right?
Yeah, so millions.
The magic of it is you've got a story to tell. And I was almost crying because the story you told in that brief amount of time was quite beautiful. And it was about a child being rescued it was the woman rescuing herself. I mean, it was
Yes.
just a complete story within a story, and it really pulled at the heartstrings.
Yep.
So, I mean, a great artist can take chalk and make you cry. I mean, the red balloon is a beautiful example of that in my mind. You know, it's just a
Yeah.
little camera and he's going around shooting it right. You know, and but the complexity to which you can use your imagination. If your imagination needs an orc army, you know, that might be
Yeah.
a little bit. But now, literally, we're all democratized to it's the value of our thoughts and our ideas.
And I think more
That
and more it's going to be story, like, because,
yeah, well,
we
I
can all
mean
make movies now.
that's
We
the
can all
real
make
thing
them.
it sucks at,
Yeah.
is it sucks at telling stories because it's never had a first kiss and a last goodbye, right? So
Yep.
that's the human thing we're talking about right there, right? So you made that story based upon something you experienced in your life, and it could have been a passing, or it could have been another movie that influenced you. So when people start thinking about, oh, it stole my stuff, no, man, everybody stole somebody's stuff because we're all built upon our ancestors. The Star Wars is the same retelling of Harry Potter. It's the hero's journey. That's been going on for thousands of years before you were
Yeah.
even born, and all you did is recast it. So anyway, but I
There's a
think
guy who
that's
had a documentary out, and the name of his documentary was perfect. You could look it up. It's called "Everything Is a Remix,"
yes.
and he goes through every. I mean, even from Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Stones,
So,
Star
so
Wars.
how do you measure the difference between AI slop, and Brandon, you know that word really well, right? And really pure genius. And so I use the Spielberg because just think of the films that man made, from Schindler's List to Jaws. Holy crap.
Yeah.
To E.T., to working with John Williams, and like what that means. So he's not just a vibe coder, he's a superhuman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Oh, Kirby Ferguson. Oh, thanks for looking that up. Oh man, I love this. I love having a producer on my show. This is great. I think I want to add, Brandon, I want to add an AI to it to fact check us if I say something wrong or do the thing wrong. It's like it's just going to
Yeah, no,
call it
that's
up
what
on
I'm
your
for. I'm that people say I'm I'm artificially intelligent, but Chris, I am curious. I have two questions for you. Thank you again for being here.
Yeah.
And I'm excited that we actually get the full interview this time instead of the clipped version that we got last week when the library so
Yeah.
rudely cut off the internet, just because they were closed. But what tools are, because we talk a lot about chain of craft, and it's not just necessarily one tool. You might write and polish things in ChatGPT. You might use Midjourney for images. I am curious about your chain of craft and how you get to the finished product. If you wouldn't mind sharing just a little bit of that.
Sure. Try not to indulge too much. It can go on. We can talk forever, but definitely start off with chat. But again, I'm throwing in my stories. So, like when I tell my students in the class, yeah, I mean, you can go to ChatGPT and say, let's write a script about a frog on a lily pad in a swamp. What could you give me? And then ChatGPT will give you a ton. But I like to walk in there and give ChatGPT pretty much my whole synopsis or treatment of my film that's in my brain.
That's it.
And if I'm in a block where I need improvement on, I just use chat as a partner. It doesn't take over the whole operation.
In fact, to double down on what you just said, if you just say, make me a thing about a frog in a lily pond, that's AI slop, but defined.
Yeah.
If you come with your whole life's experience, you've been thinking about this literally your entire life, that's when you've got something that elevates. And that's it. I think those people that are haters just never had a thought that complex in their head at one time, and it died of loneliness. It's like so.
And I tell a lot of artists too, because listen, I went to art and I worked with my hands and I sculpted and I painted and I used chalk and all the good stuff that we were trained to do. But if you are a creator, I mean, you just use the AI as a tool to enhance, your art. If I have characters, I mean, I'm sending in characters that I drew years ago and throw it into the AI.
So you've hit it on the nail right there. You just talked with pride of having made things with your hands. When you work on that Volkswagen, there's hours and hours, and no one sees that. right?
No, no.
You hear about these actors, oh, they just, fresh out of nowhere, LeBron James. No, he spent his whole life purpose built. He was anatomically blessed, and he added, a billion hours of exercise and workouts and everything. Every food he put in his mouth is like meant to that moment, right?
Right.
So if you want to get it, you got to earn it, and your humanity
Totally.
is something that it's not a participation trophy. I think this is our modern day problem, right? My kid got a participation trophy. I threw it away. You don't get that for showing up.
Yeah.
I mean, showing up is how you get the opportunity to show what you can do, but then you got to put in the 10,000 hours.
I was wondering where that trophy went. I thought it left it right there.
I think that's where,
kids, right, Brandon? Did you actually accept those participation trophies for your kids, or did you teach them?
For my kids, for me, I have 13 bowling trophies, 1 year for every year that I bowled for professional participation.
Oh man, I literally got rid of those. And the other thing I wouldn't allow is my grandparents-in-law would buy lottery tickets, and I'm like, no, not my children. They're putting 20% of every dollar they make away for long term, baby.
Oh man,
and
I wish I did that a long time ago.
Right today because of that, they ain't doing lottery.
But when it's $1.7 billion, I did not. Nobody did. It's going up to 1.7 billion for Powerball on Saturday.
And then what happens?
How do you think we're gonna fund season 2 of AITV, Rick? We gotta play.
Man, I got it handled. I'm the dangerous man with money in my pocket. Keep up, buddy. Yeah, we're talking about. I'm sorry, Chris, but this is a little inside joke. Last night we were on Brandon's show, and he's talking about the lottery and if we should use ChatGPT to kind of game the system. And I went on ChatGPT and I says, "Is there any way to game the system?" No, it's a fool's errand to put your money.
Yeah.
You're throwing it away. You might as well burn it. Or make paper.
Yeah. And I asked ChatGPT for 5 random numbers. And it said, "Oh, and do you want me to pick a Powerball number 2?" I'm like, "How did you know that's what I was going for? I didn't say nothing about the lottery."
Because it's been talking to humans for 1 billion years already. It's had every conversation virtually that's ever been had on the internet. That's how we built the damn thing. We just slapped it all together. So then you can pull off that pile a bunch of AI slop, or you can make a great film like what Chris did.
And Chris, that's going back to my other question for you, and talking about that divide between the human element and the AI, is where are you drawing inspiration for those stories? Like, are they stories that you've held on to for years and you just never had the vehicle to tell them? Because that's what we find a lot with AI, is that it's a release for things that have been pent up for a long time.
I'm just, I have it in me. Like there's some, even today still, like before I put my head down on that pillow, sometimes an idea just pops into my head. I'm always thinking. It's almost a curse sometimes because it feels like I can't then go to sleep.
Yeah.
But I'm musically driven. I'm musically driven, and I'm not a musician by any means, but I grew up with Fantasia, and I grew up. I don't know why. I love certain soundtracks from movies, especially one of my favorite is Braveheart, and of course Gladiator. And I can listen to those soundtracks.
I see that in your film. Definitely see that in your film.
Yeah, and I grew up on Left of the Mohicans and Dances with Wolves and Terminator and all those movies that have such, because like Spielberg says, 50% of the movie is the music, and or sometimes more. And so I can listen to a song while I'm driving somewhere, or I'm in the shower or something, and I'm listening, and something I could just think of a short. And Walt Disney, that's the way he made Fantasia. Those songs spoke to him of what those visually was in his mind, what they were supposed to be. So there was Christmas songs in there, but to him they didn't sound like Christmas songs. So I don't know. I guess my dad plopped me down, and his Looney Tunes was very musical. Every motion, every step that they took, there was a musical note. So I absorbed all that,
and there was real jazz being played on those things. I mean, and they were live musicians that were doing it, and there was a feeling to it that really just it seemed incongruous that you would have Looney Tunes with that sophisticated of a music track. Yeah, because it wasn't a soundtrack; it was a real jazz group that was doing some funky shit.
No doubt, man.
Jetsons and all the other, all that stuff is that. So what I really think is interesting, and then maybe this is sort of the segue that we move on. I want to have you back because this is deep diving. It's going to a place exactly where I want to be going for this whole show. This is my reason for doing the show, Chris. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's this
for sure.
idea that I was a visual artist, so everything came through my eyes and still pictures, not continuous pictures. And I think we're moving to a point where we used to think of artists as a painter. Monet made this image that took him 20 days and 50 days, 100 a year. Sistine Chapel, took many years. That's it, and it lives for 1,000 years, or it goes into obscurity. That's kind of how it's been. Now we're making so much stuff that to raise to the bar, you have to end up using all the senses. So, it's not quite smell-o-vision. I don't really think smell-o-vision would be good. Maybe there's a film that needs smell-o-vision or VR. I don't feel like many movies need VR. Some of them just need audio and visual, but this synesthesia that you connect the two, because they've always talked, psychologists and brain experts talked about our idea of what reality is, because the construction of our closed doors being opened, the ear opens and it brings something in, and that influences the other, and then they speak to each other. And that crosstalk between like smelling something or seeing something that you smell, or synesthesia is the idea that, you're watching something and you hear something at the same time. Yeah. And if you're actually able to orchestrate that experience, which is what Spielberg does, and that's what Walt Disney does, and what you're talking about in Fantasia is the visuals matched the music, which was spectacular. It had that classic thing. And that's where I think the artist of the next generation is a multimedia artist in the truest sense, and an experience designer. Steve Jobs talked about, it's not about design, it's about, the phone is about the experience you have with it. Like what we're doing right now, I could be doing on my phone, and that's just crazy to think about 20 years ago. But anyway,
Real Estate in Columbus is saying in our comments that the new Superman movie, he saw it in 4D where they included smells, lights, heat, water, and lots of other movement to supplement what was happening on the screen. So you're having the immersive experience. And so, we think about that immersion that's coming with AI and all the different channels that it enables. My new, I'm going to get it on a t-shirt. My new moniker is "Please Don't Lick the LLM." And so we got to be careful with how far we push this stuff, but.
Well, I just hope what this technology does is that, we've seen a lot of this, like you said, a lot of the slop right now. And because we all have access to it, it's just like back in the day, when I was shooting on mini DV tape, everyone could go to Best Buy and get a mini DV camera and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a filmmaker." But in the end, I hope it weeds, the real people will stand out, and the fat will be trimmed, and there's always going to be slop. But I hope in the end, this is used as a tool that someone like me, or even someone like you, that, we didn't have the resources back in the day, or say the connections to make something, and our minds are creative. We want to do things, but now we have this. So
in the last year, I have now in my pocket 120 songs that took me 65 years to finally make, where I can listen to it. I've only known the words on a piece of paper. And occasionally, if it was really good, I had a friend of mine do some scoring for me. But I didn't have that, and now I do, and it's like I can't stop, because it's 25 years of every dream I've ever had, every experience, every loss, every love, everything. So like the more human you are, I think that's it, right? The more human, immersively experienced you are, even the good, bad, and the ugly, right? It's for sure, right? And that's a good movie too. But that's it.
And since high school, man, I've been having ideas for films. Like this is what's crazy. I still have this from 30 years ago. I was a senior in high school. This is what I was thinking movies. I have this cat character that I thought of, and he fights these rats. And this cat, she summons these rats to take over this land. So I was even thinking back then, similar to what you saw my film last week was. So even a teenager, I was so in the zone to be a creator. Yeah, and
so when they do say that, Spielberg makes probably better yet, Hitchcock makes the same movie over and over again. They make the same movie because that's what their life. It's a reflection of their life.
Yep.
And all the complexity. In fact, Tolkien made Lord of the Rings. He didn't make the movie, obviously, because he was in World War I. Did we figure out that that was the correct reference, Brandon? I don't remember. I think it was World War I. He was an ambulance driver, and his buddies were Samwise Gamgee, right? They were those guys that died, and because they were fighting Hitler or whatever, World War I, whatever it was. And that's why he had to write that story. It was the common person pulled off the streets of London that got sent to save the world. And that's basically it, And
this is why we do AITV and not history TV.
Well, we got to remember to learn from history and then maybe expand upon it. So if you're going to get the chance to stand on the shoulders of all humanity's knowledge, and this is where we're going to go right over to Nana Banana, because I'm going to make this transition. Wait for it, Brandon, because here it comes, right? If you get the chance to stand on all humanity's knowledge, do it with the eyes and the humanity to say something more and better, and looked at every image and it kind of matched up what they were, etc. But when you put that inside of a large language model, which is all knowledge, if I say make a human heart or make a brain that shows the effects of plaque and how Alzheimer's works to attack the brain, then make it out of real brain tissue and annotate it so a doctor could look at this, and then it does it. That requires all human knowledge about medicine and about, a brain science and Alzheimer's. And then it makes an image, and now it's actually getting exactly what you want, which is nuts. So we'll take a look at a couple of examples where basically before you had eyeballs that were seeing like they're only eyeballs, they're not connected to a brain. So I call it the ChatGPT moment, hold my beer. And so what I'm about to show you are images that I created in ChatGPT when it got a brain. And then I'm going to show you what Nana Banana is doing with that same brain eyeball combination. So literally we're building Frankenstein. We built a large language model, which is all knowledge that's your brain itself, but it didn't have eyeballs until we had DALL-E, we had all those other things. So it had to look at all the pictures. Then we started showing it the VO moment, or the Sora was the original name, right? When Sora came out, it was like, holy shit, how did it figure that out? Well, it watched 1 billion hours of video. In fact, the head of OpenAI said there was a picture of a truck going through the mud, and the water splashed up, and you could see the translucence through it. You could see the mud inside of it, and you could see the refraction of light, and a spark happen. You only get that is if you have a world model. So what we're talking about here is you got the brain world model, words and then you got pictures, and now you got motion. So now you understand gravity, you understand, and now you've got robots that can pick up an egg and know that it needs to be picked up gently compared to a rod iron or a bar of gold. So once it gets that, and it's got hearing, and then it can speak emotively, next thing is taste. And I think they're already working on that. And smell, which I know they have that under wraps too. So now you can show your phone. So I'm setting up a NAS server the other day, or I'm setting up my sprinkler systems. I take my phone out there with ChatGPT, I turn it on, it watches me. Oh, that's a model so-and-so. Let me look it up. So I had to program it, which was taking me 75 hours, right? It wasn't happening. I just had to get it to go from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning. That's all I got to do. And it told me every button to push in sequence. And it did it in a really nice way that made me feel like I wasn't wasting its time. If I tried to get my buddy next door to come help me, no, whatever time, so that's kind of where we are. So that's, I think, what's fascinating me and making me feel like, oh my God, I just can't sleep because what's next, right? So let's move on over, Brandon. Thank you so much, Chris. And man, you got to stick around and just hang out because we're having fun.
Sure.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Hell yeah.